Good evening, black people and all allies fighting for black liberation, black prosperity, and black joy. I'm Charles Blow, and welcome to Prime. Senate Democrats have agreed to press pause on Build Back Better negotiations with Joe Manchin to allow for a cooling off period between the West Virginia senator and President Biden. Negotiations between Manchin and the Biden administration have been at a standstill since Manchin rejected the proposed $1.75 trillion social spending framework in December. The pause will also allow Senate Democrats to shift their focus towards voting rights, which they plan to bring to the floor next week, along with filibuster reform. While Manchin has indicated that he could support the climate-related provisions in the bill, he still feels that other aspects in the bill, like the child tax credit, should be scaled back.
Okay, and there's an awful lot of things that had a lot of things that were very, I think, well intended, and there was a lot of things that was pretty far reach on some things in the most delicate times that we have right now, and our country's divided. And I don't tend to do anything that divides our country anymore. So whatever I can do to unite and bring people together.
Tuesday, Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer expressed confidence in getting Manchin on board with voting rights and Build Back Better.
I've talked to Senator Manchin numerous times during the break. Most of the discussions were on voting rights, but we did touch on BBB. And I believe the Biden administration will be having discussions with Manchin with his cooperation and participation on BBB as we move forward.
But when it comes to filibuster reform, Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell says that the Senators Manchin and Sinema are the only Democrats preventing what he calls breaking the Senate.
All indications are that they still believe the Senate as an institution is important and doesn't need to be turned into the House, or put another way, doesn't need to be broken.
While Senate Democrats seem to think that a pause in the Build Back Better negotiations is necessary for progress, many have acknowledged that the final product may look quite different from the proposal that Manchin tabled in December. Joining us to discuss is co-founder of Black Voters Matter, Cliff Albright, and associate professor of political science at Howard University, Dr. Niambi Carter. So, Cliff, let me start with you. You know, Manchin seems to be all over the place. He gives them a little bit of possibility, a ray of hope on Build Back Better, but he is still sounding like he is resistant to filibuster reform when it comes to voting rights. How do you read what you have just heard from all three of these people, Manchin, Schumer, and McConnell?
Hey, Happy New Year's to you, Charles. Yeah, you're absolutely right. I mean, Manchin is always sounding like he's arguing with himself, with his past positions, with common sense and reality. And so, you know, anytime he says something, which is always coming from a pessimistic perspective, right? You know, we have to take it with a grain of salt, because at the end of the day, it was several months ago where he wrote an op-ed that suggested we would not even be at this point. So there's a little ray of hope. So there's some optimism in the fact that they're pushing the filibuster reform and they're going to bring it up for a vote. But at the end of the day, you know, we still got to be cautious, because as Senator Schumer said himself on another program, he said that he doesn't really have any evidence yet that Manchin is going to go along with the voting rights and with the filibuster reform. You know, he's saying that he's confident, but I'm old enough to remember a few weeks ago where Joe Biden told the House Democrats that he was confident that he would have Manchin's vote on Build Back Better. And so, you know, there's a little hope. Again, there's a little optimism, but we just got to be cautious. And most importantly, we got to continue to push. That now is not the time for us to let up. We got to push even more. We got to finish strong, keep up with the phone calls, the text messages, and of course the days of actions that we're going to have coming up, both tomorrow as well as the MLK holiday.
Dr. Carter, let's take a look at the timeline here. Schumer is basically saying that they're going to try to vote by next week. It is sure to fail. They're not going to get 10 Republican votes. Now you move directly into a discussion, at least, about the filibuster, but there's no timetable on that, and Manchin is not going to move or that he has given no indication that he's going to move now. So what happens then? Do they just allow it to fail and just so that they get people's votes on the record?
I think that's sort of the strategy at this point, because really we have known for months at this point that none of these people are movable on this issue, particularly around voting rights. They've made it very clear that they have no intention of passing anything that makes our democracy more robust, that includes more people, right? They've made it abundantly clear, including Joe Manchin, that there is nothing here that interests them when it comes to filibuster reform. So I think this is all just political theater, and nobody really has the will to do what it's going to take in the Senate to actually move HR 4 or any of these other bills forward. Because ultimately, I think the problem here is that Joe Biden and others of his ilk believe that there is something that we can compromise on. And as long as we fetishize bipartisanship, we'll never actually get the kind of aggressive and progression, because changing the filibuster and carving out exceptions for voting rights on the filibuster will not end the Senate, will not change the Senate. We've already done it for Supreme Court nominees. So to do it for something as essential as voting rights, which is really the cornerstone of our democracy, is really insincere here. These people do not care. And there is no cooling off period. There is no coming back to the table and renegotiating this. They do not intend to do this. And I really think that, as well-meaning as Chuck Schumer may be, as well-meaning as Joe Biden may be, that there is no real spirit here of being innovative when it comes to pushing forward voting rights, which are really going to push our democracy into a new space.
So, Cliff, let's talk about, this strategy, the big picture here. Manchin clearly does not want to change filibuster rules. The question is whether or not he can be kind of pressured into doing it anyway, feeling like some sort of guilt or something. He's not demonstrated he feels any guilt about anything, his position so far. But what prevents a Mitch McConnell from coming in and saying, I'll give you a little piece so that you can say that we did something, and so that you can then say, see, the Senate does work. It just doesn't work for this thing that you want to ram through, only Democrats want to ram through. What prevents Mitch McConnell, who is a crafty politician himself, from doing something that is a little bit more like playing chess here?
Yeah, you raise a good point, and as the professor said, there's always this danger of this potential compromise. As you may know, Charles, that there's been this thing floating around, this Fair Election Count Act, that some people are looking at as being one of those potential compromises. And so we have to say very clearly that is not an acceptable compromise. That is not an acceptable replacement for the Freedom to Vote Act, from the John Lewis Voting Rights Act. We're not looking for something that Mitch McConnell, as you say, could come in and say, oh, look, we're being reasonable. That act would not take care of the things that we're seeing happening all across these states. We're seeing states right now. We know what happened during the past year, 19 states, 33 bills, but we forget we're about to go into a whole new legislative session in many of these states, and some of these states are trying to go even further with the voter suppression starting now in January and February. So we don't need a compromise bill. What we need is both of these bills, the Freedom to Vote Act and the John Lewis Voting Rights Act. And again, we're going to have to force them to do right. We're going to have to force the president, who, by the way, is coming to Georgia next week, to give some kind of remarks. And as I've said elsewhere, unless he's coming to announce that they've actually come up with a deal on passing these two pieces of legislation, then there's not a whole lot that I really need him to come to Georgia to say. What I need him to do is the same thing he did for infrastructure, the same way he went to the House and told the House progressives, I need you to pass this, I need you to pass it now. In spite of the fact that Manchin was shaky on Build Back Better, the same thing he did then, we need him to do for voting rights. Go to the Senate, go to their Tuesday lunch or breakfast meeting, give a passionate speech, make the demand, stomp your fist on the table, do whatever you need to do, offer Joe Manchin a bridge that's named after him. I don't care, but we need the president to lean into getting these bills passed. I don't need him just making another speech in Georgia.
Dr. Carter, we focus a lot of our attention on Manchin because he's been the most vocal in his opposition to changing the filibuster rules, and to a lesser degree, Kristen Sinema. But there are probably 8 other senators who haven't had to take it into the fire, also somewhat opposed to changing filibuster rules. What makes Democrats so sure that those other 8 will be on board if they could get Manchin and Sinema on board?
Quite frankly, I don't know, right? We don't know what Chuck Schumer is doing. We don't know what's kind of happening behind the scenes. And unfortunately, I think for the Democrats, is that makes them look ineffectual, like they're doing nothing. And I think and more importantly, they're leaving behind one of the most important constituencies of their voter base, which are Black people and Black women more particularly. And look, I think the fact that, Chuck Schumer has not looked very strong as a majority leader has not helped, to your point, this idea that there are going to be enough Democrats who are standing in line ready to do this. And as you said, they've been very happy to let Joe Manchin and Kyrsten Sinema be the face of sort of Democratic resistance to some of these notions. But I'm certain there are others who are there who want to do this whole preserving of the institutions. But what people fail to realize is that institutions like filibuster rules are made. And even the filibuster itself has been made and remade. We haven't seen someone give a 27-hour speech anymore. All they have to do is indicate that they plan to filibuster, and that's enough to make everyone sort of fold like a deck of cards. So we really have to be mindful here that these institutions, to Cliff's point, are created. And just like they've been, modified and revised over time, that, we still have the power to push these people to revise and modify these institutions. The filibuster isn't sacred. And they want to treat it as if it is because it allows them sort of a carte blanche to block whatever they don't like. And that's true for Democrats and Republicans, whoever's in the minority. But this issue of voting rights is not one that we can really sort of play political gamesmanship with. This is really about who we're going to be. And part of H.R. 4 is restoring pre-clearance. And that's pre-clearance requirement is so important. That's how we get all of these voter ID laws and all of this nonsense stuff that we're seeing in all these states across the land, because pre-clearance has been gutted. So, the filibuster will not die unless we can get the Democrats on board. And it's not clear that Democratic leadership is up to the task.
Right. Well, I like the idea, as Cliff mentioned, of naming a bridge after Manchin, but my fear is that it will only go 90% across the void before it stops and you have to turn around. Anyway, Dr. Niambi Carter and Cliff Albright, thank you again for joining us tonight.